We're at Hassel in Sydney, where we've gathered a group of industry leaders from the landscape architecture, building and design community to count down the top 10 landscape architecture projects for the year in Australia.
So we're here for the best of the best. We've taken the top 10 landscape projects from across the series, and we're here today to choose the #1 landscape architecture project for the year.
Landscape architecture always seeks to connect people to place through stories and histories that we have, writ across the landscape, etched into topography that says we were here. Kicking off the top 10 is a grand public space which Greg Cook of Gosford Quarries just loved.
This project screams out WA. The colours, the culture, the way it sits in around the river with the stadium at the background is excellent.
The new Optus Stadium in Perth is grabbing all the attention as the big new statement in town. I think the real story is in this remarkable and complex landscape.
One of the critical aspects of the park design was accommodating 9,000 people coming from this bridge here in the northern part of the site. There are 28,000 people arriving from the train stations and 14,500 from the new bridge. One of the key aspects of the site was public art. This art piece here, The Wandering, really kind of sits itself nice within the landscape, and it creates these range of spaces and elements to view as you arrive.
So what did this area used to be?
Well, where we stood now used to be a significant site for the local Indigenous people who used it for ceremonies, burials, fishing. So what we really tried to do is heal the land, both physically and culturally.
We work with the Whadjuk community really closely. We engage with them and they are artists to, I think, make this space much richer and much more special.
And so where are you taking me now?
Taking you through one of the Indigenous artists' work. She was a Noongar artist, Sharon Egan, and this work is called Wabini Mia, which means playhouse. It's based on Sharon's original work, weaving, so it's sort of taking her cultural history and turning it into a play feature. After all this hard work, you've created something that you can really see the children absolutely loving and engaging with.
I really like what Anthony said about healing the landscape through design. This place has been returned to somewhere not just for the fans, but for everyone.
Sarah Paget-Kersgaard of the Australian Institute of Landscape Architects applauded #9 for helping to address an ever-growing problem.
With a quarter of Australia's children's population obese or overweight, placing food production right at the centre of a schoolyard is bold and it's necessary if we're going to challenge this social issue.
Our schools' outdoor environments are often an afterthought. Here, it's front and centre, literally. It's a phenomenal space to think that a veggie garden, and a great veggie garden, is right at the entry point of the school.
A big part of the school's curriculum is, I guess, honesty and hard work. And what better place to put a garden, a working garden, at the front door. We wanted to make sure that this place was very much local to Brisbane, in the sense that the local materials in terms of the sandstones, the gravels, the timbers, they're all sourced relatively locally.
Because St Francis was very much connected to the earth, creation, the environment. When we looked at redeveloping the school, we wanted to make sure that when students entered the school, they came into a place that was peaceful, that was beautiful. And it also is an opportunity for a lot of our students to see the whole process of planting, growing. And I remember one student made a comment about she loved the vegetable garden because when she came in, it was a place of peace, quiet. But if she wanted something on her lunch, she could go and pick some herbs or whatever and put it on her lunch. It's not a showpiece, it's part of the school.
This is the sort of school I would like my girls to attend. I think that shows how effective the landscape architects have been in creating an inspiring learning environment. And I hope this becomes the model for future schools.
Hassel's John Hazelwood praised an audacious #8.
There's no doubt this is the Gold Coast. It's bold, it's colourful, but behind all that, it's a great example of architecture and landscape being seamlessly integrated.
Most landscapes sit around the building. This one takes it right over the top.
We were obviously brought in by the council to help ground the project in its local context. And as landscape architects, we reach out to the broader regional landscape, and we've brought those elements onto the green roof, or onto the green mound that sits atop the stage. It's hard to believe that the stage is underneath us.
And Jesse, this project was born from an extensive international design competition?
Yeah, it was a design competition with 75 competitors from around the world, and we were lucky enough to win it with Topotec, our landscape architects out of Berlin, and CUSP, to create a precinct that's all about culture, all about southeast Queensland.
The community have absolutely embraced this space. I mean, why wouldn't you? What they're loving is coming to this experience where you sit on this amazing grass, you look at this beautiful subtropical landscape, you have a glass of wine, surface paradise lights up, and, you know, it's just this incredible arts experience.
It could have been something else, you know, it could have been a building with walls and a roof that was inaccessible, but instead it's open 24 hours a day. It's very permeable, you know, it's something that's open and reflects, I think, that Gold Coast lifestyle.
Integration is a word that's often used by designers, and it may have lost some of its meaning. But here, they've really claimed it, and it's resulted in a genuinely exciting place.
We're counting down the top 10 landscape architecture projects for the year in Australia. Leading the judging today are Wes Fleming of Fleming Nurseries and Reno Brindisi of Iguzzini Lighting.
We've got all sorts of projects here, from large-scale government projects to even smaller backyard-type projects.
The quality is amazing, and I think we should all, being part of the industry, be very proud of what we're showing you.
It's so important when we design playgrounds to think of all age groups, and here's a perfect example of that, from toddler right through to late teens.
When designing public spaces, we often take risk out. This place puts it back in. So we're in a conservation park here.
It's an island of green in the sea of suburbia, and it's amazing that many people didn't know it was here. The intention was to create a destination for families, and that they could come here for half a day, have a barbecue, use the pump track, use the trails. So the whole idea behind the playground was based on the local birds of prey. So we had sort of bird's nests and giant eggs. Juna commissioned a Minecraft competition, and so we got a lot of ideas from the local kids when they built what they thought would go in Cobbler Creek.
So all this looks a bit risky to me.
Well, the whole philosophy behind the park was to encourage progression and diversity of use. Over near the playground, we've got the kids' tracks, and we've got the pump track where you can have skateboards, BMXs, mountain bikes, whatever. It's for all. And then basically as you move towards these bigger features, you get slightly harder. We're getting over 1,500 people through here a day. We're getting engagement with friends groups and the broader park. They're actually going out into the Cobbler Creek Recreation Park now and using the whole thing, not just this portion of it.
While the bike trails might be the star attraction here, it's actually about a much bigger picture. Ben's design has connected more people with their surroundings, and that's what landscape architecture is all about.
At number 6, this residential oasis resonated with 2 of our judges.
This Victorian project is a deeply personal space. It tells a story of the family. It's all about their connection with their own garden.
This garden has grown up with this family. Just as a puppy is part of the family and is just as loved.
One of the challenges of landscape architecture is its huge diversity. From multi-million-dollar public projects to deeply personal private spaces. So where do you begin? When you were designing this, what was the one crucial element you wanted to make sure was in the garden?
Family, heart and soul, family space, places for kids to play.
But that doesn't just happen naturally, does it?
No, it's very intentional. You've really got to work to make something look underworked.
The plants are amazing. They look like they've been here forever.
Yes, well, that's part of the idea, to make it not look like it's too structured and not overly landscaped, which is often what happens.
There's no boundaries.
Having a significant tree like this one definitely helps do that. It links the space, with vegetation. There's a lovely story behind it, actually. Our landscape architect suggested we had this deciduous tree here. I was about to go and plant it. I had the hole ready and everything, and I saw my young daughter looking out the window at what I was doing, and I asked her to come out, and we got in there and got our hands dirty. And just as we were tapping down the soil, I said, we have to have a name. And without a thought, she came out with Charlie. We've got this policy that you don't go and buy things to make more things. You've got to use what we've got lying around. And so kids have made things. Simone and I have made things. It's just been a part of the family process and a part of getting kids and ourselves out of the house and out into the garden.
Peter and his team have done an amazing job here. A wonderfully welcoming family garden, but at the heart of that is really strong design and a little dash of fun.
This project is just great. The landscape architect works so closely with the school right from the inception of the brief, and it's really meant that they've created spaces for these special needs children and for their families.
This project deals with it all: a complex brief, a very challenging climate, and students with very specific needs.
It was a fantastic opportunity to design for a special school from scratch, so greenfield site. The end result is we have a school where students have opportunities to be quiet, they can have opportunities to run around, and when those students have those opportunities at recess and lunch times, they're then ready to go back into class to do their work.
So you've got the classrooms, then you've got the outdoor classrooms, and then on the outside of that we put the play spaces. We not only colour-coded the buildings, but we colour-coded the playgrounds as well. So if you can't read, then you've got the colour coding to help you to know where you are in this landscape, and all those playgrounds are also designed for different activities. So one is all about climbing, the next one is about balance, the next one is about rotating and spinning. So you can master all of these tasks and then move on to the next one as you go through.
On top of the complexities of designing a school, of course we're in the Northern Territory.
It's certainly got its challenges. It's a little bit hot, but we also get our monsoonal rain. So you've got to design everything to have shade and to have cover everywhere you're going all year round.
And of course you've got cyclones as well to deal with.
It underpins a lot of what you do. So you can see behind us we've got the bamboo planted here against this shade structure. You don't plant trees because the trees could actually fall down and hit that infrastructure.
The landscape here is driven by humanity. It's having a real impact on people's lives and the children's well-being. And to me, that's what good design is all about.
We've searched across Australia to find the top 10 landscape architecture designs for the year. Project number 4 was admired by Michael Amati of Compan.
This detailed design on the edge of the world is absolutely breathtaking. From the very beautiful detailed design of spiky plants to the strong horizontal lines that pick up the sea and the sky, it's truly a masterful creation.
This unassuming frontage is hiding something pretty special.
What we wanted to do was to really work with what's here, to expose the true nature of it. There was a big rock shelf here to start with, and then we built on the idea of exposing that really strong element of the cliff face.
I imagine it would have been quite tempting just to put in a deck and call it a day here.
We really like to make things really rich and diverse. I think that a garden's got to do more than just look at a view or even just to accommodate use. In this case, we really just wanted to encourage a little bit of wildlife back into the garden. And the grasses are so beautiful because they wave in the wind and they pick up the sun and they collect little drops of moisture that shine in the sun. So something so simple actually becomes really diverse and really interesting.
Claire, why did you choose to have a landscape architect involved in this project?
I wanted somebody with whom I could really collaborate. We wanted to create a place that one would feel has always been here and so naturally exists here. People walk in and they just feel so immediately comfortable and at home.
And you've resisted the temptation of going for a glass balustrade?
Glass gets really dirty very quickly, and we wanted something that's as tough as the landscape is. And the fence is really delicate but tough at the same time. The clients really wanted to be able to sit up here and look over into the sea uninterrupted.
This garden is not just a successful collaboration between the client and designer, but a collaboration with the landscape. It's proof that you can have a design space and a natural environment.
Barangaroo, number 3. We've taken away a hard concrete square block and transformed it into something amazing.
Unless you really live in Sydney and have a lot to do with the Sydney Harbour, you perhaps won't appreciate it as much. But to actually get access to the water at Barangaroo now is something very unique.
That whole experience of walking onto the rocks, touching the water, I think a deserved number 3.
Sydney Harbour is all about its headlands, like green fingers jutting into blue water. And this one is making an impression. So Maria, it wouldn't be Sydney without sandstone. And so these are giant blocks. Where have they come from?
They were excavated out of a pit. There's some 10,000 blocks were taken out. 6,700 were used along the foreshore, and they range from about 2 metres long to 5 metres. The park itself actually follows the original shoreline. The whole intention of the foreshore was to be able to walk down and dangle your feet in the water.
I'm tempted to do it, but there's more to do.
The site rises about 17 metres from the bottom footpath to the top of the hill. The retaining walls were trying to replicate the slopes that you find on sandstone headlands.
So at the top of this headland is this lovely open park space.
It's not typical of a headland, but we had to provide some usable space for the public to enjoy. We're actually standing on a roof garden at the moment. And we had to form the roof of the space underneath to follow the landform so it wouldn't put too much weight on the structure. It was quite an engineering feat.
This is like the entrance to a cave. That must be 6-7 metres tall.
It's that tall out here, but inside it's actually 17 metres from floor to ceiling. At the moment it's being used for a whole range of things like fashion shows, Sydney festivals, art exhibitions.
So it's just a big old space where thousands of people can come. It's naturally ventilated, it's cool, it's protected. It's kind of an event space that Sydney hasn't really got.
That's right.
200 years ago, much of this was water. A century ago, it was a set of wharves. 5 years ago, it was a container port. Our cities are constantly changing, so it's only natural our public space should too. We've reached the final 2 in our countdown of the top 10 landscape architecture projects in Australia for the year.
What's there not to like about Arboretum? We've got 100 different forests, we've got an amphitheatre, the combination of both. I can see that that is a place that you would want to spend some time.
We're not going to see the benefit of this. Hopefully, grandkids, great-grandkids, they'll visit that and really appreciate what we did in our generation.
Walter Burley Griffin always had a vision in his original design for Canberra of an arboretum at this place. So in 2003, after a series of bushfires devastated the site, the ACT government saw it as an opportunity to realise that vision. Traditionally, an arboretum is a collection or a museum of individual trees that are set in a garden or park setting. In contrast, we've built a series of 100 forests. You walk into one of these forests and it's as though you've sort of been transported to the Himalayas. This is a completely immersive thing where you can, the quality of light changes, you know, the sound of needles crinkling under your feet, even the smell of the trees is very distinct. So what we're trying to do is build a series of experiences like that. This is the pod play space, and it's inspired by the trees of the Arboretum forest.
Wow.
We're looking at the acorns and some of the other seed pods of the tree species here, and we super scaled them. Really, there's so much design consideration behind this, from the massive scale of the entire site down to details like these. It's a really meaningful public space. Not only does it cater for all of these uses, but it also really links people with an important story about environmental sustainability and biodiversity as well.
The beauty of this project is its vision for the future. It's been designed and commissioned by people that will never see its full glory. And thanks to the attention that's been paid to all levels of the design, glorious it will be.
And now from around the country, Australia by Design's top landscape for the year.
This project incorporates all of Australia's flora, fauna and colour on a 25-hectare site.
It doesn't surprise me at all that this project won. This will win international competitions, not just domestic ones.
If Michelangelo was a landscape architect, this would be his work.
This is landscape architecture on a huge scale.
Over 20 years ago, in 1995, the client came to us with a brief about wanting to create an Australian native botanic garden. And for us, it was about pulling together our key collaborators and working out, well, how do you showcase these things? Basically, we've structured the visitor journey in terms of water. And so as you journey through the garden, you come from the arid absence of water, and slowly the water starts to appear in the rock pool waterway and then becomes abundant further through the rest of the gardens.
Chris, you must be really pleased with this.
We're thrilled. I mean, we set the design as a really difficult task, 15 hectares, an old sand mine site, to turn into a garden that celebrates Australia's flora and landscapes.
And of course, not just about the large scale, you've also got these great display gardens.
This is a series of gardens that really shows plants that you can get in nurseries and how to use them in creative new ways in Australian home gardens.
Here we are at the Weird and Wonderful Garden, which clever design with these huge big stones. We have a lot of microclimates, and you've got places that are exceedingly hot and exceedingly cool. So we can grow things from the Northern Territory, Central Australia, and the highlands in Tasmania, and coastal Australia as well. All one thing juxtaposed against another. So that makes it weird, and it certainly makes it wonderful.
This is a perfect example of how landscape architecture can combine beautiful artistic design with a scientific purpose to create something wonderful for everyone.
Next episode, we return with Australia by Design Innovations, where we look for the best new ideas in design, engineering and technology.